What's good, folks? It's Warframe here with a new Warframe video talking about how melees are really in a bad place right now. I'm not saying you shouldn't use melees, that melees are bad, melees are trash, just toss melees. No, I'm saying that as the game is right now, melees just don't seem that viable in most of the game modes. Melees are superb when you play them, solo or in a controlled environment like Disruption, Survival, and even Void Cascade. But what sets melees apart from guns? Now, this all has to do with the history of melees, how they went from being the most dominant, powerful weapon in your arsenal to what they are now. If you go back into the past, melees were just powerful in a way that if you used the Nerf focus school, you had invisibility, additional crit chance, and melees had punch through. Pretty much like how your Brahma or Kuvazar explodes and deals AoE damage, damaging enemies through walls and all of that, melees could do that as well. Now, for those who don't know Maiming Strike paved a way for melees, and it held that position for such a long time. Maiming Strike gave you a flat 90% crit chance on slide attack, which was pretty insane. So it could take any low crit weapon and just give it a 90% crit chance increase, which stacked with Blood Rush. I remember when I traded one Maiming Strike mod for a Nova Prime, Ash Prime, and Ember Prime sets. This was back in the days when Nova was like 200 plat, Ember was 400 plat. Maiming Strike was the main thing that you needed, and it was also currency. But of course, DE saw this as a detriment to gameplay. Why would people use anything else if Maiming Strike existed? So Melee 3.0 came into play, where a lot of things changed. They removed IPS bias. What this means was that your IPS didn't have 4 times the chance to proc than your modded elements. Basically now, whatever value is higher had a higher chance to proc depending on your status chance. Hence why I always talk about slash weighting when you mod for certain things. They introduced a new combo system. Back in the days, combo was just bad. Now we can see how much we're dealing, how much we need for certain builds, etc, etc. It's a lot easier to understand. And on top of that, mods have changed. And this also hurt Melee in a way. After Melee 3.0, Melee still continued to dominate because of the modding system. You had Condition Overload, Blood Rush, Weeping Wounds, those 3 mods along with the other utility mods and multipliers that greatly increase the power of Melee. Melees have something that guns do not. 1, they do not need to reload. It's consistent damage as long as you maintain your combo, and guess what, you can easily do that with focus schools and arcanes. And melees have stances. Each stance changes the way the melee feels. So for example, if you would take a polearm, use Shimmering Blight, that's one of the stances. Shimmering Blight gave you this fast, fluid flows of attacks, which didn't require much. You could use your forward and block combo to close the gap and engage the enemies better. What if you change this to Bleeding Willow? And now, when you block combo, it gives you another way to close the distance. And certain stances, for example, like the Namiskala's Swirling Tiger, it will give you that multi-hit combo where it can force proc a lot of slash to bleed the enemy. This combo would also knock down the enemy, which will also benefit the Condition Overload mod. Look at that. And if you block combo, you had a way to close the distance and engage the enemy. Now, for example, if you want to deal more burst damage, you would use something like Crossing Snakes, because this one stance will just give you that burst of damage, which will benefit more raw damage builds. So all of these different stances and combos had different multipliers and force procs. And all of this was without even needing to reload. You can seamlessly switch between your guns and melee. So that's the great thing that melee has that the other weapons don't. If you're swapping between your primary and secondary, you needed holster speed. Let's not forget about the great Gladiator set mod, Nerf. Back in the days, you were able to equip the Gladiator set bonus on this. As you can see right there, stat stick. And now you can't. Having the option to equip the Gladiator set bonus on the Deconstructor, which was the Helios's weapon, a melee weapon, gave you some additional crit chance with its set bonus. DE claimed that this was a bug, but we clearly know it was a way to nerf melee even more. Because apparently, crits is what made melee strong. No, what makes melee do a lot of damage are all the different unique status effects you can apply on a target and smack it with condition overload. Even with the condition overload nerf, we still do a lot of damage. We have all these different types of multipliers. Bleeds, so many bleeds. Certain melee weapons have better heavy attack multipliers than others, but heavy attacks are still slow, clunky, horrible to use, and require too much setup for certain, meme runs in endurance. Even though melee is really strong, there is a downside to this. At the current state of the game, AoE guns, or anything that can clear a room faster than your melee, is way better than your melee. Funny when you think about it, because back in the days, melees were the thing. So what changed over the course? Well, guns got a buff. Guns got few new fancy mods, and the way enemies engage you right now, and the way Steel Path survival is just horrible when it comes to life support, and the way that enemies engage you did change, and also how enemies are in this game also determines how good a weapon can be. And that's not all. Melee builds are just really, really boring. All melee builds are literally the same. If your melee has high slash, you would mod it like so. Change a mod here and there. For example, here Nami Scala has a lot of attack speed, so you wouldn't need an attack speed mod. You'll probably put spring-loaded blade and run an arcane strike. You saw that build? Now let's take this to a Cronin Prime. Well, pretty much the same, but this time we're using attack speed. You know what? Let's bring this to another slash build, a Reaper. Oh look. It's pretty much the same build, but this is hybrid heavy attack, so I use Reflex Coil. Ascendo Prime. Oh, that's pretty much the same thing, but we need a bit more attack speed, so we'll run Quickening. Prisma Dual Cleavers. Oh wow, it's pretty much the same build. Grand Prime. Look at that. The same build. Venka Prime. Wow, that looks pretty familiar. See, this is the downside with melee. If they have certain stats, you would build it a certain way. Nothing innovating. The only thing that will change sometimes if the melee weapon itself has an innate element. For example, Sylvan Aegis has innate heat. How would you mod it? Just put an extra element in there. You can have gas, you can have just a normal heat build, you can put virulent heat, who cares, it's the same thing. The Jat Kuzar, it also has innate heat. You put a mod, boom, you got gas. If you're running a corrosive build, you'll drop Weeping Wounds because corrosive is just raw flat damage, and heavy attack builds are going to be pretty much the same. But now when it comes to guns, some may share a similar build, but what makes them more unique is that they fire differently. For example, let's take a look at the Tenet Arcoplasmor. Now you have this thing that shoots a weird wave projectile and it ricochets. Look at that. And now, you know what? I'm just gonna close my eyes and click. I have the Proboscis Cernos. I wasn't even planning for that. Now, what does this weapon do? Well, you shoot it, and it has these weird tentacle things that drag at enemies and explode. Look how that drastically changed. Then we take frigate Akuva Heck, and now this weapon is a shotgun. Look at that. Feels heavy, powerful, right? And then you switch to its alternate fire and you shoot every single pellet in there. And then of course you have the infamous Kuvazar. This thing shoots these rockets that detonate and drop bomblets. And you can switch your alternate fire mode and you can have a shotgun. This weapon is a friggin' launcher and a shotgun. This is one of the main reasons that melees are falling off. They're just too bland. They may look cool in Fashion Frame, Captura, but melees are just way too bland. Melees are quite powerful in endurance runs, especially Disruption. You get those heavy attack bleeds, one shot at Demolist. It feels good, yeah. But then you can also do that with guns and also have different loadouts specifically for guns. You have the feel, the look. It just completely changes how you play the game compared to melee, because melee, oh look, because with melee is you prime an enemy, you can heavy attack them or just auto attack. And there's also a downside right now to using heavy attacks because you cannot seamlessly transition into a heavy attack right now. I would have to melee, get into my melee, and then heavy attack, which is really a detriment to your gameplay. Now I want to ask my viewers out there or anyone who else is watching, when was the last time you used melee? Because right now I would only use a melee as either a utility weapon to help me move faster, or armor strip, you know, with the Vassalok, or even have it as a weapon to kill enemies to boost my primary or secondaries base damage. For example, running a dexterity arcane. I don't necessarily have to kill with my primary weapon. I can use my melee. I can kill enemies over there, switch to my priority target, and focus them down, since I just got base damage from killing those guys with a melee. And modding like this is actually useless in Star Chart. You get what I'm saying? In Star Chart, if you want a Star Chart build, this is literally a Star Chart build. You have your base damage, you have your crit chance, reach, combo duration for those who can't handle that, and you just mod it for flat damage. Here, I just didn't have the polarities. You just go for raw corrosive. That's it. You got a Star Chart build. This still kills level 100. As you can see, this still kills. It may not be the optimal build, but it still kills. So why go above and beyond to mod like this and use a primer? Because for one, if you want to do more damage, you would have to spread your multipliers. If you force too much on a weapon, well, you're going to be losing out on damage. But then does it really matter if you're doing Star Chart? No, it doesn't really matter. And the way the missions are designed, it forces you into this playstyle. If I don't have the speed, if I don't have the AoE, I will be the slowest person. I will not do any damage. I will not get any kills, etc., etc. That is the current meta of Warframe. In survival, kill a lot of things fast. Get life support, stay there longer. Disruption, kill things fast. Focus on that one priority target, stay there longer. Enemies attack you from a different angle, well, what's a good way to get rid of them? AoE. CC, AoE. So what will be the one thing that will change weapon gameplay in Warframe? So what would happen is, if Warframe changes how the mission types are, how enemies engage you, the enemy density, priority targets, if that was all changed, weapons would seem more powerful than they already are. For example, a weapon that you never think of using would probably rise up in popularity. Am I saying we should nerf AoE? No. But should we nerf AoE? No. There should be a time and place to use an AoE weapon. No, there should be a strategic play into using AoE weapons. For example, take a look at Destiny. I know. You would have an ad clearing weapon, you would have a damaging weapon, and then you have your, which is focused towards a champion or a boss, and then you have your abilities, which aid you and keep you alive or support your teammates, and can also buff your weapon's damage. All in all, what I'm saying is that melees really suck right now. There are better options to kill hordes of enemies faster than using a melee. Are melees still fun to use? To a certain point, yes, but then they just become the same thing. Funny enough, you could say the same thing to someone who uses a lot of Kuvazar or Kuvabrahma. Should DE nerf weapons? No, that's bad game design. Should DE change how weapons feel? How missions feel? Absolutely. It's been several years. Game modes are pretty much the same, and with the addition to newer game modes, they pretty much feel the same. When they introduced Xmas units and all of these Thrax units, did you think you're gonna not use a Kuvazar, Kuvabrahma? No, you'd use the same thing. And guess what? It was still way more effective than using anything else. Oh, I can't deal with these Xmas units. My CC frame cannot crowd control them. Guess what? Blow them up. Blowing things up is literally the solution to a lot of things in Warframe. Go fast and blow things up. This way of playing gets really stale really quickly, and it affects a lot of new players and people who just want to enjoy the game, because when they enter a mission, right, they're like, oh, I got this new weapon, this great Piranha Prime, oh my god, it looked so good in Simulacrum, and people showed it off. They enter a mission, boom 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 boom, things are dead. Extract mission, and they're like, dude, what the fuck? So yeah, we need a massive change, hopefully soon. And test servers. We need test servers, proper test servers, not 2 days, actual test servers. I know you can do it. Hopefully you can do it, and hopefully this will make the game a better game. Anyway, for those who enjoyed watching this little weird video, thank you so much. And if you enjoyed what you saw here, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.